Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping in for quite a journey. We're connecting three things you probably wouldn't expect to find in the same thought, let alone the same shopping cart.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix.
We've got luxury French perfume,
Yeah.
a can of classic American Budweiser, and, believe it or not, a perfect tulip.
It sounds a bit random, I know.
It does. But our focus today is that hidden thread connecting them all. Incredible precision.
Exactly. It's really a masterclass in what you might call industrialized art. Our mission here is to unpack the amazing level of precision, the meticulous timing, and the technology needed.
To do what exactly?
To transform nature's most delicate, most volatile ingredients into these, well, high-value commercial products we all know.
And high value is an understatement, right?
Yeah.
The scale is just staggering.
Absolutely.
We're providing huge industries where being off by just a degree or even an hour, that can be millions lost.
Yeah.
I mean, the global fragrance market alone,
Right.
over $55 billion a year.
And that entire value is built on capturing, sometimes, just a few grams of incredibly fragile essential oil.
Wow.
Precisely. You know, we often think of these things as just bottled or maybe grown, simple, but the process behind them, it's ruthless in its demand for efficiency.
Ruthless.
Yeah, because the whole point, the value proposition, it hinges on capturing this critical, almost invisible signature. It could be a fleeting scent note in perfume, or the exact pale gold color of a lager like Budweiser, or even the perfect crispness of a vegetable. If you delay things, even by a few hours, or you miss a key temperature window,
What happens?
that volatile quality, it's just gone forever.
Okay, so let's dive into this, starting with maybe the most invisible of the bunch, perfume. The invisible weapon, as you put it.
Good place to start.
Its history goes way back, right?
Yeah.
Ancient Egypt, using scents for rituals, embalming.
That's right. But modern perfumery, the kind of global industry we see now, that really took off in 17th century France. They perfected distillation.
And that led to the big names, Chanel, Dior.
Exactly. Those legendary houses built empires on it, became pillars of global luxury.
What's fascinating, though, is that even with a really expensive bottle, the scent itself isn't stable, is it?
Not at all. It's a complex chemical mix. And it actually reacts with your own skin chemistry, your pH level.
Yeah.
That's what creates that unique personal signature everyone talks about.
Ah, okay.
But that magic, it starts way back in the field with raw materials that are incredibly volatile.
Right. Let's start with a cornerstone ingredient, lavender. Seems pretty common, but the sources say there's a trick to harvesting it.
There is. Farmers are looking for what they call the golden moment.
The golden moment.
Yeah, it's when precisely 70% of the blossoms on the plant are in full bloom.
70%. Why so specific? Is it just superstition or?
No, it's pure chemistry. That specific point, that 70% bloom state, that's the absolute peak for essential oil content within the flower.
So the timing is critical for the yield.
Critical. If you harvest a day too early or a day too late, the oil content drops noticeably. And that impacts everything down the line, the yield, the concentration, the quality of the final oil.
So to hit that perfect moment, they must have some pretty advanced methods now, not just people with sickles.
Oh, definitely. It's highly mechanized today. They use these specialized harvesters. The sources describe them as gliding like ships over the fields.
Like ships?
Yeah, they use sharp rotating blades and conveyor systems. They cut and collect the stems very carefully, trying not to crush the delicate petals.
And the efficiency must be incredible.
It's night and day, one of those machines. It can easily do the work of, say, 20 or even 30 farmers. We're talking a 10-fold boost in productivity.
Wow.
But it's not just about speed, it's also about freshness. That cut lavender has to get to the factory for distillation within 24 hours.
24 hours. Why the rush?
To prevent oil loss. The moment it's cut, those volatile compounds start to degrade, so it's a race against time, a race against chemistry.
Okay, so it gets to the factory. Then what? They dry it a bit?
Lightly dried, yeah. Then it goes into these huge vats, think giant pressure cookers.
Okay.
Hot steam is forced through the lavender. This causes the essential oil molecules to vaporize along with the steam.
Right, steam distillation.
Exactly.
All
That
right.
steam and oil vapor mixture then goes through a cooling condenser, turns back into liquid. And because oil and water don't mix,
They separate naturally.
right, they use a special container. It's called a Florentine flask. The essential oil, which looks like pale golden drops, just floats right on top of the lavender water or hydrosol.
And that's it. That's the finished ingredient.
That's your high-quality lavender essential oil ready for the perfumers.
But lavender, as important as it is, it's kind of the workhorse,
Yeah.
right? What about the really high-end stuff, the true treasures, as the sources call them?
Ah, yes. Now you're talking about things like rose and jasmine, found in some of the most famous perfumes ever, like Chanel No. 5.
And these need even more precision.
Oh, absolutely. An entirely different level. Because their oils are so much more fragile, so much more volatile than lavender.
Okay, give us an example. Rose.
Take the damask rose, primarily grown in Bulgaria. It can only be harvested by hand, no machines.
Only by hand. Why?
Too delicate. And the timing. It has to be picked at dawn, just as the sun is coming up, usually between late May and early June.
Lawn, specifically.
Yes, and the pickers are trained to select only the buds where the petals have just started to open. That precise moment is when the fragrance is at its absolute peak. Any later, and the sun's heat starts breaking down those precious volatile compounds.
Incredible. And jasmine. I read something wild about that.
Jasmine's even more extreme in a way. Most of the world's supply, maybe 90%, comes from India and Egypt. And it also has to be handpicked.
But not at dawn.
No, at night, usually around 2 or 3 in the morning.
2 or 3 a.m. That's
Yeah.
dedication. Why the night shift? Couldn't technology like special lights or something solve this? Why can't they automate that?
That's a great question, and it really highlights the volatility issue. The jasmine blossom, it releases its sweetest, most intense, most complex fragrance only when the temperature drops during the night. Ah, so it's a temperature trigger.
Exactly. Once the sun hits it in the morning, those delicate aromatic compounds start degrading rapidly. And automation, still no. The flowers are just too tiny, too fragile. You need that human touch, that sensitivity to pick the perfect bloom without bruising it.
Okay, so these super delicate flowers, you can't just blast them with steam like the lavender then.
Absolutely not. It would destroy the fragile compounds. They need a much gentler process.
Which is?
It's called solvent extraction. They typically use a solvent, often hexane, to gently coax the aromatic compounds out of the petals. This first step creates a waxy, paste-like substance called the concrete.
Concrete?
Then, that concrete is washed, usually with pure alcohol. This dissolves the aromatic oils, leaving the waxes behind. After the alcohol evaporates, you're left with the absolute oil. Highly concentrated, incredibly fragrant.
And that process must be why they're so expensive.
Precisely. It's labor-intensive, requires careful handling, and the yield is tiny. You need literally millions of jasmine blossoms to produce just 1 single kilogram of absolute oil. It's amazing that pure, skilled human labor is still the only way for some of these. So once they have these precious oils, these absolutes, where do they go?
They head to the perfume houses, to the ateliers, and that's where the nez comes in, the nose.
Real factory engineers.
Exactly. These are highly trained professionals. It takes 5, sometimes 10 years of intensive training, often at specialized schools like ICPCA in France.
What do they actually learn? Just memorizing smells?
Oh, it's much more than that. Yes, they can identify thousands of individual scents, but crucially, they train to understand the chemistry, how these volatile compounds will interact, how they'll evolve over time, how they stabilize. They compose the perfume like a piece of music.
A symphony, the sources called it.
That's a good way to put it. 3 tiers. The top notes, which are bright but evaporate quickly. The heart notes, which form the main character of the scent. And the base notes, the deep, long-lasting ones that anchor the fragrance.
And once the nez has created this perfect blend, mixing the oils with pure alcohol and distilled water, is it ready then?
Not quite. There's one more crucial step. Maturation.
Like aging wine.
Very similar. The blended liquid has to age, often in massive inert steel vats. This can take anywhere from a few months to sometimes 1, 2, even 3 years.
Why so long?
It allows all those different fragrance molecules, those layers, to truly meld, harmonize, and stabilize. It ensures the scent profile is smooth, rounded, and lasts on the skin. Only after aging is it cold filtered to remove any impurities and finally bottled. That whole process protects the integrity, the quality, and ultimately that $55 billion brand loyalty.
Incredible. What a journey just to capture something invisible, a scent. Okay, let's transition now. We've seen precision capturing volatile fragrance. Let's explore how that same kind of meticulous control captures...
Well, flavor consistency.
Let's talk Budweiser.
An American icon. Its whole identity is built on tasting exactly the same every single time.
Absolutely. Consistency is king. The story starts back in the 1870s, St. Louis. Adolphus Busch, a German immigrant, was inspired by a lager he tried from Budweiser in Bohemia. And he wanted to replicate it, but with a twist.
Exactly. His key innovation, the thing that really set it apart, was using rice along with the traditional barley malt.
Why rice?
It lightened the body and flavor, creating that distinctively crisp, clean taste that really came to define the American lager style. different from the heavier European lagers.
And making billions of cans taste identical requires, I imagine, extreme control over the ingredients, starting with hops.
Definitely. They source a lot from the Yakima Valley in Washington state. And just like with the perfume ingredients, the harvest timing is critical.
When do they harvest?
Usually August to September. That's when the hop cones are perfectly ripe, packed with those essential oils and lupulin glands that provide bitterness and aroma.
And it's a huge scale operation, right?
Massive. Speed is vital to lock in freshness. These hop vines, they can grow up to 6 meters tall. They use automated cutters that can process, get this, anywhere from 48,000 to over 100,000 pounds of hop plants per hour.
Wow. Okay, so they get them down fast. Then what?
Yeah. They rush immediately to processing facilities. Freshly picked hops have a really high moisture content, maybe 75–80%.
And that bad?
If you leave them like that, yes, they'll quickly start to degrade, lose aroma, even mold, so they need to be dried fast.
How do they do that?
They're spread out in large kilns, often multi-layered. Hot air is blown through them, very carefully regulated, typically between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
For how long?
Usually about 8 to 12 hours. The goal is super precise. Reduce that moisture content all the way down to just 8 to 10%.
Why that specific range, 8 to 10%?
That's the sweet spot. It's dry enough for stable, long-term storage, especially in cold conditions, but it still preserves the delicate aromatic compounds and the chemical integrity needed for brewing. Any drier, you lose aroma. Any wetter, they spoil.
Precision again. Okay, what about the other key ingredient, the malt, that defines the color, right?
Absolutely. The pale golden color of Budweiser comes directly from how they process the barley into malt. First, the barley grains are steeped in water for about 2 days.
What does steeping do?
It raises the moisture content to around 42–46%. This basically wakes the grain up, gets the enzymes inside ready to go.
Then it sprouts.
Exactly. It goes into germination rooms for about 4 to 6 days where it starts to sprout. This activates the enzymes needed to break down starches into sugars later, but then, crucially, they have to stop the growth at just the right point.
Ow. More heat.
Yes, but this is key. They use a special low-temperature kilning process. It gently dries the germinated barley down to just 3–5% moisture.
Why low temperature?
2 reasons. First, it preserves the enzyme activity needed for brewing. Second, and this is really a defining choice for the American lager style, the low heat prevents the malt from darkening. It keeps that pale, almost straw-like color. Higher kilning temperatures create the darker, richer colors you see in ales or German lagers.
So that single temperature decision in kilning basically dictates the look and part of the taste profile of Budweiser.
Fundamentally, yes. Then comes the actual brewing in the mash tun. This is all about controlling those enzymes they so carefully preserved.
And this is where the rice comes back in.
Right. They combine that pale malt with their signature gelatinized rice. The rice has already been cooked to make its starches accessible. Then they carefully control the temperature of the mash through specific heating stages.
Why different heat stages?
To activate different enzymes at optimal times. At one temperature, beta amylase works best, chopping starches into lots of simple fermentable sugars. That leads to the alcohol content and the dry finish.
Okay.
Then, at a slightly higher temperature, alpha amylase becomes more active. It breaks down starches into more complex sugars called dextrins.
Dextrins, what do?
They're mostly non-fermentable, so they don't add much sweetness or alcohol. But they are absolutely essential for contributing to the beer's body, its texture, that satisfying mouthfeel. Without controlling for dextrins, the beer would feel thin.
Fascinating. Enzyme management. So after the mash, they get the sugary liquid, the wort.
Correct. That wort is then boiled for about 60 to 90 minutes. And this is where the hops are added back in.
At different times.
Yes. Hops added early in the boil contribute mostly bitterness, which balances the malt sweetness. Hops added later, near the end, contribute more of their volatile aroma compounds.
And after the boil, it ferments. But then there's that special lagering process.
Yes, the lagering. This is really the defining step for a lager beer. After the primary fermentation, the beer is cooled down to temperatures near freezing, around 0 degrees Celsius, and aged for several weeks.
Just keeping it cold.
It's more than just chilling. It's a slow, secondary conditioning phase. It allows yeast and proteins to settle out, mellows the flavors, cleans up any harsh notes, and develops that characteristic crispness and smoothness. It takes time and a lot of refrigerated space, but is non-negotiable for that Budweiser consistency.
And finally, getting it into the can or bottle. The sources mention something called an isobaric filling system. What's isobaric?
Isobaric just means equal pressure. When you fill a carbonated beverage like beer, you have to do it under pressure. Because if you just poured it into an open can, all that dissolved CO2, the fizz, would immediately bubble out of solution, leaving you with flat beer and a foamy mess.
Okay.
So an isobaric filler pressurizes the can or bottle to match the exact pressure of the beer in the holding tank before the gin flows in. This keeps the CO2 dissolved, ensures the correct carbonation level in every single can, and allows for very fast, efficient filling without excessive foaming. It's all about maintaining that final point of consistency right to the consumer.
Truly meticulous from field to fizz. Okay, let's shift gears one last time. We've done scent, we've done flavor. Now let's look at visual appeal and culinary texture. We're moving into horticulture.
Right, where precision delivers perfect blooms and ideal Christmas. Let's start with something beautiful. Tulips.
Tulips, thousands of varieties, right? A huge business.
Over 6,000 registered varieties, yeah.
Okay.
A massive global market, especially tied to spring. Their journey, commercially, starts in the autumn, October, November.
That's when they're planted.
Exactly. And often using precision machinery. These machines use special planting nets to place the bulbs at a very specific depth, usually about 15 centimeters deep.
Why that depth?
Protects them from frost over the winter. And they're also spaced carefully, maybe 10 to 20 centimeters apart. This gives each bulb enough room, nutrients, and light to develop properly, ensuring a strong stem and a high-quality flower come spring.
So the planting itself sets the stage for quality.
Yeah.
Then spring comes.
March, April, May, depending on the variety and climate, the flowers bloom. For the cut flower market, they're typically cut just above the leaves. Interestingly, the leaves and stems are often left in the field to decompose.
Free fertilizer.
Pretty much. Enriches the soil for the next crop. Then for the bulbs themselves, specialized harvesters come in.
How do they work?
They usually have tines that gently lift the soil layer containing the bulbs onto vibrating conveyors. The shaking helps separate the soil from the bulbs.
Then they're cleaned.
Yes. Cleaned, sorted. The smaller offsets or baby bulbs are separated out. Those will be replanted for the next season. The main bulbs might have their outer papery skin peeled off. This helps remove any lingering dirt or potential fungal spores. Then they're sorted by size and quality. It's like an assembly line for bulbs.
But the really interesting part technologically is how they force them to bloom for specific dates, right? Like Valentine's Day or Easter.
Ah, yes. That's where climate control becomes extreme. Growers essentially have to trick the tulip bulb into thinking it's gone through winter and it's time for spring, exactly when the market demands it.
How do they trick it?
They store the bulbs, often already planted in trays, in large cooling rooms. They maintain on artificial winter temperatures consistently between 41 and 48 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 5 to 9 Celsius.
For how long?
It depends on the variety and the target bloom date, but typically for 11 to 16 weeks. This sustained cold period is essential. It allows the bulb to complete its internal development cycle and store up energy for flowering.
So they create a mini ice age on demand.
Pretty much. Then, when they want the bulbs to start growing, they move them into greenhouses. And here, everything is precisely controlled again. Light levels, humidity, and especially temperature, usually an ideal range of 61 to 64 Fahrenheit or 16 to 18 Celsius. This carefully managed environment pushes the tulip to grow and bloom exactly on schedule for that peak commercial window.
It really is like a five-star hotel for flowers.
Yeah.
All time to a deadline. Okay, finally, let's touch on artichokes. They seem different again.
They are, particularly because the harvest relies almost entirely on skilled human labor, not machines.
Artichokes are big in California, right?
Huge. About a $46 million contribution to the state's agriculture. And they can be grown pretty much year-round there. What we eat as an artichoke is actually the immature flower bud of a thistle plant.
And timing the harvest is key.
Absolutely critical. They have to be picked by hand using sharp knives at the precise moment when the bud is fully developed, plump, firm, and the outer bracts or leaves are still tightly closed.
What happens if they wait too long?
If they wait even a day or two too long, the bracts start to open up, the center gets fibrous, and the quality, the tenderness, and therefore the market value just plummets. It becomes tough and less palatable.
So speed and judgment are vital.
Immense skill is involved. Experienced harvesters move quickly down the rows. They identify the perfect buds by size and feel, snip them with a short stem, and then, this is amazing, they often toss the harvested artichoke backwards over their shoulder into a special basket strapped to their back.
While still moving and looking for the next one.
Exactly. It's incredibly dexterous. They can harvest maybe 150 to 200 pounds per hour this way. It's repetitive, demanding work requiring sharp judgment and physical skill under time pressure.
So after they're picked, what's next? Washing and sorting.
Yes. washed, then sorted by size and quality. Any damaged or substandard ones are usually composted. The good ones are either packed fresh for market or sent for processing, often pickling.
How does the pickling process work? Is that automated?
The preparation often is. Automated trimming machines are quite sophisticated now. They can remove the tough outer leaves and the fuzzy choke in the center, leaving just the tender heart and maybe the very bottom part of the stem.
And then into jars.
Before jarring, there's usually a blanching step. The trimmed hearts are briefly immersed in hot water or steam.
Why blanch them?
It serves a few purposes. It helps preserve the color, firms up the texture slightly, kills surface bacteria, and deactivates enzymes that could cause spoilage or off flavors later. Again, the time and temperature of the blanching have to be controlled precisely to get the right texture without making them mushy. Then they're packed, usually in brine or oil, and sealed.
So even with the hand harvesting, precision comes right back in during processing.
Exactly. Every step, from the farmer's split-second decision in the field to the temperature of that blanching water, is designed to capture that artichoke at its peak state of quality and lock it in before it naturally degrades.
Okay, so we've gone from perfume to beer to tulips and artichokes. Looking back across these very different industries, what's the big takeaway? What's the common thread holding it all together?
I think the core lesson is that for these high-value natural products, their entire commercial worth is tied to the ability to achieve and then maintain a very specific, often very fragile state of nature.
A perfect state.
A perfect state, exactly. Whether that's preserving the incredibly volatile aromatic molecules in night-pick jasmine for perfume,
Or hitting that precise 8–10% moisture level in hops so they don't spoil but still make great beer.
or tricking tulip bulbs with 16 weeks of artificial winter to guarantee they bloom for Valentine's Day.
Right.
It's all about arresting the natural process at just the right moment. Technology, mechanization, climate control, it's all geared towards minimizing that time between the field and the stable processed form. Protecting that volatile quality is everything.
So it's really this combination, this convergence of sophisticated technology and machinery on one hand,
Right.
and often, still, that irreplaceable human skill or art on the other. The experienced farmer judging the artichoke, the Nez blending the perfume, the master brewer tweaking the process.
Precisely. That combination is what elevates the raw natural ingredient into something with consistent quality and immense commercial value. It seems the more delicate and valuable the natural product, the more intensive and meticulous the industrial engineering required to preserve it.
It really makes you think.
It does. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. Now that you appreciate the critical role of precise timing and temperature control in preserving these natural ingredients, think about the environmental cost, the logistics, the energy required to maintain that precision across global supply chains, often involving refrigerated transport across continents.
That's a huge hidden cost.
It is, and it makes you wonder, what's the next incredibly delicate natural ingredient that will require the same level of industrialized art to bring it to market? And what will it take to sustain its fragile perfection?
That is definitely something to chew on. A great place to leave it. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.